To either side, what a dish! And Stewart lays it in on a beautiful...
The situation surrounding Caitlin Clark's injury and the Indiana Fever has spiraled into something that is no longer just about basketball. No longer just about a player being hurt and a team waiting on her return, but about trust, credibility, deception, and whether fans, the lifeblood of the sport, have been deliberately misled by the very people who claim to be building the WNBA's future. Because right now, it's getting crazy, it's getting spooky, and it's getting very, very real, very fast, and the people are no longer silent. They are not willing to just swallow press release talking points and PR spin. They are demanding answers, and the anger is growing louder by the day as receipts pile up, contradictions mount. And what once looked like optimism for Clark's return now looks like the worst disappearing act in WNBA history. A calculated effort by the Indiana Fever front office, head coach Stephanie White, and complicit reporters to lie in plain sight. Hoping that no one would put the pieces together. Hoping that in 2025 fans wouldn't be sharp enough to fact-check every date, every timeline, every word, but spoiler alert, fans did, and they are not only connecting the dots, they are blowing the whistle on something that increasingly feels less like an honest mistake and more like a full-blown cover-up. A cover-up that raises real questions of negligence, deception, and even potential consumer fraud, because people bought tickets, tuned into broadcasts, and purchased merchandise under the belief that Caitlin Clark's return was imminent, only to find out that the timelines never matched reality, that the stories kept shifting, that injuries were rebranded, concealed, or flat-out fabricated, and that the league's biggest star, the billion-dollar face of the WNBA, was being treated as a pawn in a game of smoke and mirrors. Think about this. On July 15th, Clark suffers what's called a groin injury after a collision with J.C. Sheldon, with day-to-day updates and a target return by late August. Fans were patient. Fans accepted that she needed recovery time. Fans stayed loyal. But as August rolled on, new excuses appeared. An alleged ankle tweak in early August, then the official story of a workout injury on August 7th. All neat, all PR-friendly, until receipts emerged, showing Clark casually walking through Phoenix that very same day carrying a designer Prada bag, moving without limp, without strain, without visible pain, directly contradicting the narrative fed to the public. So what changed? What really happened? Fans aren't dumb. They can see the contradictions. And then comes the most damning detail. The infamous moment when assistant coach Bon January literally stepped on Clark's left foot during a game. The same foot now being whispered about as the source of her pain. A moment caught on camera and circulated online. But instead of acknowledging it, the Fever buried it, replacing it with the convenient workout mishap story. If that isn't incompetence, it's negligence. And if it's negligence, it's bigger than basketball. It's a legal issue. Because if a coach's reckless act sidelined the league's biggest star, and then the organization deliberately lied about it, that is grounds for investigation. Plain and simple. And Stephanie White, instead of leveling with the public, doubled down with her sanitized talking points, telling reporters on August 12th that Clark could be back in practice soon, only for fans to notice she wasn't at practice at all. Instead of clarity, confusion deepened, and rather than correct course, the Fever treated their fan base like fools, thinking they could grin, laugh, and get away with deception. With reporters like Scott Agnes literally chuckling as they read the unlucky injury story, as if Clark's pain were a comedy sketch, as if sidelining the most important player in the league was something to laugh about. Do you realize how insulting that is? How unprofessional? Imagine the NBA pulling this with LeBron James or Steph Curry. It would be 24/7's coverage, sponsors demanding answers, investigations launched immediately, firings on the spot. Yet in the WNBA, silence, complicity, and gaslighting. And meanwhile, fans, who spent their hard-earned money traveling to games, buying streaming packages, purchasing merchandise, clinging to the idea that Caitlin Clark's comeback was imminent, have been used and exploited, sold a false narrative that looks increasingly like a strategic ploy to keep ticket sales high and ratings strong, while knowing full well she wasn't returning anytime soon. And that is where this jumps from incompetence into fraud, into deceptive consumer practices. The kind of behavior that could and should trigger the attention of the FTC, DOJ, and sponsors who do not want to be caught bankrolling a cover-up. Let's not ignore another angle. Clark herself has been dragged into this PR machine, forced to repeat robotic talking points, working hard, feeling good, Just unlucky lines that sound less like Caitlyn and more like they were drafted by an intern in the Fever's PR office. She's no rookie anymore. She's in her second season. She's carried this league on her back by shattering ratings and selling out arenas. Yet she's treated like an expendable asset, used to fuel marketing campaigns even while injured, her authenticity stripped away by handlers who care more about optics than truth. And fans know it, they can hear it in her words. They can feel it in their gut. This isn't honesty, this is damage control. And here's the kicker, theory circulating among fans right now. Maybe this isn't just bad luck or bad communication. Maybe it's intentional. From day one, Clark was told she needed to bulk up, gain muscle, get stronger to handle the physicality of the WNBA. And almost immediately whispers began that her body wasn't ready, that she was being pushed too hard, too fast, that the rush to transform her physically left her vulnerable to injuries. And sure enough, her second season is clouded by one injury after another. That's not coincidence, that's bad planning. And bad planning always has a culprit here. The finger points directly at Stephanie White and her staff, who not only mismanaged Clark physically but then lied about it publicly, compounding the injury with dishonesty. At this point, the Indiana Fever don't just look incompetent, they look fraudulent. They look like clowns running a billion-dollar circus. And the damage is done. Credibility in freefall, fans openly accusing the team of lying, receipts piling up on social media, timelines being dissected, frame by frame, every contradiction documented for eternity. And the real tragedy, Caitlyn Clark, the once-in-a-generation superstar who should be celebrated, is caught in the middle, her career momentum jeopardized by a franchise that seems more concerned with saving face than safeguarding their star. Fans were excited when they purchased tickets believing they'd see her shine on the court, and that excitement turned to anger as misleading injury updates fueled false hopes. And now, it's not just disappointment. It's outrage that could very well lead to lawsuits, investigations, and sponsors pulling support. This is not a minor slip-up, it's a full-blown credibility crisis. And if there is any justice, whoever represents Caitlyn Clark is going to win, because the evidence is overwhelming. The contradictions are glaring, and the cover-up is obvious. The WNBA claims it wants growth, it wants respect, it wants legitimacy. But if this is how the league treats its brightest star, then legitimacy is a long way off, because fans are not dumb, fans are not blind, and fans will not be scammed without fighting back. Right now, the Fever's lies have sparked a firestorm that is only getting bigger. And until Stephanie White and the Indiana Fever tell the truth, the outrage will only grow. The receipts will only spread, and the damage will only deepen.
Inside bounces, Howard flips it in. Right, and that's been a challenge for her. It's been a challenge.
The Caitlyn Clark injury saga has turned into something so much bigger than a player being sidelined with a setback. It has morphed into a credibility crisis, a fan revolt, a possible consumer fraud case, and a scandal that threatens not just the Indiana Fever but the WNBA itself. Because when you zoom out and connect all the dots, when you look at the timelines, the contradictions, the spin, and the outright lies, what you see is not simply sloppy communication or bad luck but a deliberate effort to deceive, an effort that insults fans, undermines trust, and endangers the very superstar who has carried this league on her back since day one. And the craziest part is that the front office and Stephanie White actually thought they could get away with it, that they could step up to a podium, flash a smile, and feed people fairy tales while nobody noticed the holes in their story. But this is 2025. Fans fact-check everything in real time. Receipts pile up on social media instantly, and once the cracks appeared, the entire foundation collapsed under the weight of fan scrutiny. Because let's be real, this is not some small situation that will blow over. This is the WNBA's most important player, the engine of ticket sales, the driver of TV contracts, the magnet for sponsorship dollars, and the face of women's basketball worldwide. And the way her injury has been handled is nothing short of malpractice. Because trying to rush her back before she is 100% healthy, misrepresenting the severity of the injury, and lying to the public about her availability isn't just mismanagement. It's reckless endangerment of a career, and it's reckless endangerment of the trust that fans put in this league. And you cannot play with that, without consequences. Think about how this unfolded. Clark injures her groin in mid-July after a collision with J.C. Sheldon. The initial diagnosis is day-to-day, which sounds minor. Fans breathe a sigh of relief. They think she'll be back soon, but then weeks pass, and the messaging changes. Suddenly, she's out indefinitely. Then ESPN circles August 12th as her return date, fueling excitement that her comeback is right around the corner. But here's the problem. On August 11th, she is listed as a game-time decision against Dallas, which makes fans believe she is closer than ever. Yet Stephanie White then steps to the mic after practice and admits Clark hasn't even been practicing at all. Meaning there was never any chance she'd play. Meaning the game-time decision label was a sham. Meaning the entire timeline was fabricated, and when fans press for answers, they get this absurd workout injury story supposedly occurring on August 7th. A story that sounds clean and PR-friendly until footage surfaces from that exact date, showing Clark walking around Phoenix with a designer Prada bag, moving without limp, without pain, without visible difficulty, raising obvious questions. If she was injured in a workout that very day, how was she strolling comfortably through the city with zero signs of distress? And then comes the kicker. Fans begin resurfacing the infamous clip of assistant coach Brianne January stepping directly on Clark's left foot during a game. The same foot that is now supposedly plagued by bone bruise issues, and suddenly the dots connect. Was the injury really from an innocent workout, or was Clark hurt by her own coaching staff and the Fever launched a cover-up to protect themselves from liability? Because if it's the latter, this is no longer just a PR mess, it's negligence. It's mismanagement at the highest level, and it's a scandal that could absolutely spark legal action. Because in professional sports, if a staff member injures a star player and the team lies about it, the fallout is catastrophic. And here's where Stephanie White's credibility crumbles. Because instead of clarifying, instead of being transparent, she doubles down. She sells the story again and again like she's performing theater, but the more she repeats it, the more obvious the cracks become. And every time she insists status quo until Caitlyn's back at practice, while knowing Caitlyn hasn't practiced in weeks. Every time she says the team is prioritizing Clark's long-term health while simultaneously dangling false return dates to boost ticket sales. She torches her own credibility. She drags the Fever deeper into scandal territory, and she insults the intelligence of the fan base, who are no longer willing to be lied to. Fans are openly saying Caitlyn Clark should ditch the Fever's medical staff and go back to the Iowa doctors she trusted in college. And can you blame them? If the front office is lying about when she got hurt, what else are they hiding? Aren't they downplaying the severity? Are they risking her future for short-term profit? These are not wild conspiracy theories. These are legitimate concerns backed by contradictions, receipts, and footage. And when you layer them together, it screams cover-up. And the disrespect doesn't stop there. Because reporters like Scott Agnes literally laughed while retelling the so-called unlucky injury. As if